Today's lesson is on section 5.1, writing linear equations in slope-intercept form. So we spent quite a bit of time in chapter 4 looking at how we graph equations by making tables, by using intercepts, and then eventually we got into looking at how to graph equations by just knowing the slope and the y-intercept. And so now we're going to start writing some equations from graphs in slope-intercept form, and eventually we'll look at how to write them if we know the slope and a point and different things like that. But we're going to start off with writing them in slope-intercept form given the slope and the y-intercept or the graph. So this should be relatively easy for you. So remember, please, that y equals mx plus b is the slope-intercept form of an equation, and m is the slope and b represents the y-intercept. So that should be review. So then if we look at writing an equation where we know the slope is 3/4 and the y-intercept is -4, we just have to put that information into the graph, or excuse me, into the equation itself, and we have our line equation. So the slope of 3/4, we write that in place of m, and my y-intercept of -4, we write that in place of b. Now we get the equation y equals 3/4 x minus 4. Remember that if you don't have -4, you have a hard time remembering that -4 means -4. You can go ahead and write plus -4, and that would be perfectly acceptable. So the slope of 3/4 and a y-intercept of -4 would give us the equation of y equals 3/4 x minus 4. So here I have three graphs that I've drawn onto my graph paper. And so I want to know what are the equations for each of those lines. So let's start with the green line. I have 2 points on that green line. I don't know what the slope is, but you should remember from chapter 4 how to find that slope. So I'm going to count my rise over my run. So I'm going to rise 3 and run 2. So my slope, which we leave improper, is going to be 3/2. So now I know that. I know what the m is. Then I look at my y-intercept. In this particular case, the y-intercept, where the green line crosses the y-axis, is at -3. So the equation of that line then would be y equals 3/2 x plus -3, or minus 3 is perfectly fine as well. Let's look at the red line. In order to go from one point to the other on the red line, if I start with the left point, I'm going to drop. Remember, dropping is negative, so it's going to be -1 over +2. Or if I go from the point on the right, I'm going to rise up 1 and go left 2. Again, left is a negative movement, so then the slope would be 1 over -2. -1/2, negative, or 1 over -2, they're the exact same thing, -1/2. So that's my slope. And then I look at my y-intercept, which is at -1. So I write the equation y equals -1/2 x minus 1, or -1/2 x plus -1. I'm going to let you do the black line that's drawn there. Write the equation for that line. That's all I have for you today in this lesson. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow.